You are now watching Lesage, the best place to learn about competitive Pokemon TCG. Let's get it! Yo, what's poppin' peeps? Welcome back to the channel. Lesage here. Today we are going to be covering over another brand new deck, Whimsicott VSTAR. So we've already covered Arceus VSTAR and some other early Brilliant Stars decks on the channel. Be sure to check them out. But I'm going to continue to cover as many Brilliant Stars decks as I possibly can, so the whole community is ready for when this set drops late February. There's some really cool things going on with this deck, such as Shadow Rider. The list is in the description, so you can copy paste that once it's on PTCGO and when we eventually get PTCG live. And let me know what your thoughts are on these decks. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and let's jump into the deck profile. Yo, let's get it popping off with this list. So I figured I wanted to go with some kind of base that could work with Whimsicott, because Whimsicott is, how do I put it? It's hard to get off. Like, it's not powerful enough to be its own deck upon first glance. I mean, again, these are very early lists, so I do want to completely stress those out, that I could miss a card here or there. I could, it might not be perfect, but it is one of those things where I do want to, like, work with a list that I think can have it. That being said, I do think Shadow Rider is the correct partner for this deck. So Shadow Rider, Calyrex V, and VMAX have both seen a lot of success since they came out in Chilling Reign, and kind of stopped around Fusion Strike because it has the same weakness as Mew. That's changed up a little bit because it's gained a few techs here and there. Like, you can see that, like, a Shadow Rider deck traditionally was running Alcremie, but now this one runs Whimsicott VSTAR, has the same kind of metal weakness. We had Crobat before, but we never had Lumineon V. In Celebrations, we gained Zacian V, and you can see, like, these little techs can definitely add to the deck. So the goal of a Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX deck is to use Underworld Door. That ability allows you to accelerate a Psychic Energy from your hand to one of your Psychic Pokemon on the bench, and then you draw 2 cards, so very similar to Zoroark GX's Trade, and kind of like a Malamar mix. So that works really well. Has a max Geist where it's doing 10 plus 30 for each energy that you have in play. So the goal is to kind of flood your field with energies. As you can see, you have Zacian V that you can accelerate an energy and end your turn. So I think that works out incredibly well. So where Whimsicott V really fits in, it has options. So, like, Shadow Rider Calyrex V already has options on hitting your opponent to stop them from playing special energies and stadiums. You can hit your opponent for 50-50 with Astral Barrage. Whimsicott V does give you a new option, so does 20 damage. If the defending Pokemon's a basic Pokemon, it can attack during your opponent's next turn. Now, this is the V, the one that we have right to the Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX. And then does 90 damage for Psychic Colorless. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 30 damage less from attacks. Also, if you want to follow along with any of the translations, we do have them in the description. Shout out to PokeBeach for providing translations for our community. The Whimsicott VSTAR and VSTARs are worth only 2 prize cards. I do want to stress that. It's one of those things where I think that works out nicely. It does 160. Your opponent's Pokemon can't play, or your opponent cannot play any tools or special energy from their hand during their next turn. So it's kind of like this, like, 1-2 punch, and, like, mid-game you could switch tempo from a Shadow Rider to a Whimsicott, change up your weakness, especially if that's something that you're worried about, and stopping your opponent from playing special energies could be quite good. Let's say you're playing against a Dark Arceus VSTAR deck. They might not be able to attach their double turbo energy. They have no way to really get around Tricky Wind. You're 2-shotting them. The other thing that we have the VSTAR power, which happens to be an attack here. So for a Psychic Energy, it does 60 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each energy attached to this Pokemon. So considering the Shadow Rider Calyrex doesn't really care where you attach the energies, it just needs energies in play, you could build up like a 5 energy Whimsicott and snipe for the game. And that could be, it's one of the reasons why we can go a little bit lower on boss. So we have 2 interesting attacks, we have new dynamics, we have a new weakness, we change up the tempo between prize cards. I think that sounds really cool. Those are cards that, like, I think really add up for a deck like this. So next thing up, we have Crobat. We always want to be drawing cards. Zacian is even a fine attacker in this match because you have access to Psychic Energies in your deck, and you can quickly power up a Zacian V. because again, you can only power up Psychic Pokemon. Lumineon V can quickly make work of just like grabbing out that game-winning boss. Kind of like in other formats, like I literally think back to my Players Cup 2 win when it comes to a lot of these decks, and I'm like, I really miss using Eldegoss just ripping back a boss, and I think we're going to see a little bit more with that, especially with Lumineon. We saw a lot of success with Tapu Lele, all that good stuff. Marnie and Research are going to be pretty common in a lot of decks still. They're still just kind of reign supreme for a lot of players and decks, so I think those seem really good. We do see a couple boss, but like I said, there's that Whimsicott VSTAR power that allows us to snipe on our opponent's bench. We do got to watch out for the new mana fee, but I mean, again, it could be pretty good with the Whimsicott, just to get around things. And I mean, I think Whimsicott adds enough to this deck where it's interesting. However, Whimsicott is not necessarily the most exciting V-Star Pokemon that I've seen, right? Like it's a hefty attack cost. It's a little specific, so we'll have to see how that goes. Fog Crystal works out great here because the majority of the deck is Psychic Pokemon. You could search out Psychic Energies to attach with Underworld Door. We have Ultra Ball, so again, another new card. It's a reprint, so new for some, and it's really one of those things where you could pitch away some clutter if you don't need particular cards. You can get energies back with Training Court if you discard them. You could kind of search out whatever you're looking for. So in the same way that we never played Adventures Discovery in a Chilling Rain version of Shadow Rider, we had access to things like Pokemon Communication. So these are things where I think we're just in a really good spot. We have Quick Ball. Quick Ball allows us to grab things. Again, we can pitch a Psychic Energy, get it back with Training Courts. We do have 2 escape ropes to deal with Galarian Wheezing. I can't stress this enough. Most decks in our Fusion Strike and Brilliant Stars format will have to adapt to deal with that archetype being as big as it is right now. You want to have a way to get around neutralizing gas, and escape rope is better than switch here. Air Balloon is just nice because Shadow Rider has 2 retreat costs. Everything else can retreat with it, so it works out really awesome here. There's only 1 Choice Belt, so let me explain Choice Belts. And I guess I didn't introduce Ultra Ball. You pitch 2 cards from your hand search your deck for any Pokemon, so it doesn't see any difference between Basic and Evolution. So that's where Ultra Ball's at. It is a reprint. We've had Ultra Ball in almost every format, just not for the past few years. Choice Belt is a spiritual reprint of Choice Band, except it does an additional 30 damage to your opponent's Pokemon V and VMAX. So V, VMAX, V Union, V Star, anything that's Pokemon V. So when we're looking at something like that, it's just kind of like a freebie energy attachment in this deck. I would like to play 1 more, but like I'm thinking with Air Balloon and everything else that we're attaching, I don't know if we necessarily need to worry about that too much. It's really one of those things where everything's all good with that. Like maybe we only play 1, maybe we need to add another one. I thought about cuts. I was thinking about maybe cutting a Training Court, or maybe thinning down the Whimsicott line to 1/1. Getting 1 space there and adding in an Ordinary Rod or a Roseanne's backup. I think those could both be interesting choices, just to give you some ideas of where my mind's going with the deck. Although I do think Training Court and stadiums in general are important to get around Path to the Peak. Those seem like very good additions to a deck like this, because a lot of decks will be playing Path to the Peak, etc., etc. But Training Court does work particularly well with this deck to get back energies, so you could accelerate and draw cards with Underworld Door. And we also have the Collapsed Stadium, which is a new stadium card. So when you play it down, each player can only have up to 4 Pokemon in play, but it does allow us to discard a Pokemon if we have more than 4 in play. Same thing with our opponent. So if we have a heavily damaged Shadow Rider, it does allow us to pitch it off the bench. If we do have a Lumineon that we just don't want there anymore, or a Crobat, or a Zacian, these are cards that we can just pitch off the bench. So we have options, right? And I think that sounds really cool. Like this is another reason why I could see Roseanne's backup working in this deck, to get back a Stadium, maybe get back that Choice Belt, get back an Energy, get back the correct Pokemon. So there's a lot of cool things you could do. And 14, while it seems like a lot, there are a lot of discarding cards. Research, Ultra Ball, Quick Ball, and we do want to be able to get out our Pokemon very quickly. So we really want to draw a bunch of cards and make sure that everything is going on. So right now I think 14 is probably the correct count of energies for this deck. Again, my biggest beef is just like Whimsicott VSTAR, seeing how that plays out in our kind of metagame that I don't want to be like I'm creating, but I'm still figuring it out as we go along. Because again, we can only figure out as far as what people start throwing out there. And Choice Belt seems like it should be at 2. That's kind of my thought process, but I can't really find a spot, and it's not really the most important card in this deck, but it could be. So again, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what would be the best spot for these cards in the deck. But this seems like a very solid build of Shadow Rider. We've seen a lot of success with Shadow Rider decks in the past, and it is really one of those things where the skeleton's not going to necessarily change too much. So let me know what you think about this deck. I think it's really cool. Again, PokeBeach in the description has all the translations, and the list is in the description. If you are trying to pick up any cards for Shadow Rider right now, you can go to PTCGO plug in code Lesage5, again, code in the description to save 5%. It also helps support me as a content creator as well. And that's what we got going on for this video today. Again, I really hope that you enjoy this deck. Not every single V-Star deck is going to be made equally, and right now I think that this one's pretty cool. Might make Shadow Rider a little bit better going forward, but as I said, I'm going to be exploring a lot of decks, and I'd love some feedback, and I'm going to continuously use those to grow other decks in the format as well. That being said, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and I'll catch up with all y'all later. Peace out, and have a great one. I truly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. It means the world to me. And my goal with this channel is to spread my love of the game and knowledge with our entire Pokemon TCG community. If you haven't already, help signal boost this video to other Pokemon TCG fans by liking it, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to the channel. Hopefully we reach our goals really soon. Check out this recommended video and have yourself a great day. Thanks.